Have you ever, sat in a meeting, just mentally editing and re-editing the perfect sentence in your head?
Oh yeah, like constantly.
Right. And you do it so much that you just watch the conversation completely move on without you.
Exactly. And you're just sitting there, the moment is completely dead, and you're left holding this brilliant but totally unspoken thought.
It is so frustrating. Welcome to today's deep dive, by the way.
Okay.
Because today we are looking at those bizarre mental gymnastics that keep us silent at work.
Yeah, and the irony is you probably spent that entire meeting convinced you were, doing the responsible thing, like making sure your input was absolutely bulletproof.
Right, but the source material we're digging into today suggests that the cure to this conversational paralysis, it isn't about getting smarter or preparing your notes more thoroughly.
Not at all. It's actually about drastically lowering your standard.
Lowering your standards, which, let's be honest, that is a really tough pill to swallow for a lot of high performers.
Oh, absolutely, because we typically code our silence as a positive trait,
Yeah, we tell ourselves we're being thoughtful or professional.
Right, or respectful of everyone else's time by not taking up too much oxygen. But the research paints a much more, confrontational picture of what's really happening in our heads.
So fair warning to you listening right now, we are definitely going to challenge your ego a bit today.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, because we really need to look at why we treat a run-of-the-mill, low-stakes Monday status update like we are stepping up to a podium to deliver a high-stakes TED Talk.
That TED Talk energy is so real.
It is. So let's start with the friction between our internal anxiety and the external reality of the room. Why are we holding ourselves to these impossible standards of perfection while other people seem to just effortlessly thrive on the bare minimum?
Well, it really comes down to this shared delusion that we are operating in a high-stakes courtroom.
A courtroom. Okay, explain that.
So we walk into a standard, cross-functional sync, and our brain instantly constructs a judge, a jury, and a court reporter who is taking down every single syllable for cross-examination.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that feels painfully accurate.
Right. We convince ourselves that if our input isn't this flawless Nobel Prize-winning revelation, any contribution will just be used as evidence of our incompetence.
So we just choose the perceived safety of silence.
Exactly. Silence feels safe.
But, if you actually take a step back and look at the reality of your average Zoom call, the modern workplace is definitely not a courtroom.
No, it's really not. It is a giant improv show.
An improv show. I love that. Because nobody is cross-examining you.
Right. And when you operate as if it's a courtroom, you are basically preparing for a rigid, rule-bound chess tournament while everyone else in the room is just playing dodgeball.
Playing dodgeball, yes. The workplace is just inherently messy and, improvisational.
Exactly. Most of your coworkers aren't delivering carefully crafted oratories. They're reacting in real time, throwing out half-formed ideas and just trying to keep the momentum going until 5 o'clock.
Which brings us to the Brad from Sales archetype.
Oh, yes. We all know a Brad.
We all know Brad. He's the guy who rarely has all the data, but he confidently unmutes himself to say something entirely generic, like, I really think we need to keep our eye on the ball with this client.
And we usually just roll our eyes at Brad.
Right. But what's genuinely uncomfortable to realize here is that the room usually nods along with him. Leadership rewards Brad.
They do. And they reward him because Brad is willing to be average in public.
Wow. Willing to be average in public.
Yeah, he is actively participating, which creates a sense of momentum. And that brings up, I think, the most challenging concept from the reading.
Lay it on us.
It's this tendency for smart, capable professionals to overthink their input. It's often just intellectual vanity.
Intellectual vanity. That is a stinging phrase. Let's really push on that for a second.
Sure.
Are we really refusing to participate just because our ideas aren't flawless masterpieces? Because I tend to think I'm just avoiding adding to the noise. But you're saying it's actually my ego keeping me muted.
I am. Think about the underlying motivation there. Staying silent isn't politeness. It's a refusal to be seen as a work in progress.
Oof, that is hard.
Right. You don't want to be perceived as average. You want to maintain the illusion that every time you speak, it is profound.
But the irony of holding yourself to that impossible standard is that you just become invisible.
Exactly. The quiet, meticulous professionals are withholding their expertise, while the loud people, the Brads of the world, are essentially steering the ship with half-baked thoughts they came up with in the elevator.
It's so true. I sometimes think of it like We treat our voice as a sacred monument.
A monument.
Like we want to painstakingly carve our thoughts into marble, chiseling away every possible flaw before we unveil it to the public.
But communication in a team setting isn't a monument, it's a muscle.
Yes, it's a muscle.
It only gets stronger and more useful through messy, sweaty, repetitive use. If you wait to carve the perfect statue, the team has already moved on to the next project.
That is a perfect way to look at it. The workplace needs you to flex the muscle, not unveil a monument.
Exactly.
But, okay, even when we consciously recognize this, even when we know it's an improv show and we see Brad flexing his muscles, our brains still completely freeze when we are put on the spot.
Oh, completely. And this is where the psychology gets really fascinating.
Right, because paralyzing yourself when you have time to think is one thing.
Yeah.
But what happens when you are directly prompted?
Yeah. The material gives a highly relatable scenario for this. Your boss turns to you and asks for feedback on a newly proposed project timeline.
Which should be a basic exchange.
Right, but instantly it triggers a catastrophic risk assessment. Your brain completely bypasses the actual question about the timeline and immediately treats the social interaction as a survival threat.
It's crazy how fast that happens.
You initiate a rapid-fire simulation of every possible negative outcome.
The internal monologue just spirals. Like, if I say the timeline is too tight, they'll think I'm not a team player. Or worse, that I'm just slow. But if I say the timeline looks fine, I'm locking myself into working every weekend for the next month.
It's a self-generated lose-lose scenario, and the physiological result of that mental spiral is a literal freeze response.
You just go blank.
Right. You evaluate the extreme negative poles of the situation, the cognitive load becomes overwhelming, and you offer absolute silence. Or, like, a non-committal mumble.
Okay, but wait, let me act as the skeptic here for a moment.
Go for it.
Doesn't that catastrophic risk assessment actually protect us? I mean, stepping on a landmine in front of the boss is a real career risk.
Sure, it feels that way.
So we overthink to map out the board so we don't make a fatal error. It's like playing 4D chess.
It feels protective, but that's the illusion. You are playing 4D chess in your head, mapping out 12 hypothetical moves in advance, but the rest of the team is just playing checkers.
Oh, that's a great distinction.
While you are paralyzed, burning enormous cognitive energy trying to solve a puzzle that doesn't even exist, someone else simply tosses out, well, it's a tight squeeze, but we'll see how the first phase goes.
And instantly, that person is perceived as a proactive leader.
Exactly.
They didn't solve the problem. They didn't offer a brilliant strategic pivot. They just stated the obvious reality of the room.
Yeah, the cost of your perfectionism isn't safety, it's your presence. You are choosing the illusion of safety, but you are actively sacrificing your influence.
Man, your overthinking effectively removes you from the narrative of the team.
It really does.
But, paralyzing yourself during a direct question is really only half the problem. What really fascinates me is what we do when the pressure is entirely off.
When the floor is open.
Exactly. When the floor is open and we still actively choose to hide.
Ah, yes. The infamous any questions phenomenon.
It is universally painful. A presenter finishes their slide deck, the room goes completely quiet, they ask any questions, and everyone suddenly engages in this highly orchestrated defensive silence.
It's a performance.
It really is. We all immediately stare at our laptops, trying to look intensely busy so we don't accidentally make eye contact and get called on.
I always think of that physical performance as the Rosetta Stone maneuver.
The Rosetta Stone maneuver. I love that. Walk me through that.
Okay, so it's that moment you stare down at your notebook, furrowing your brow and aggressively clicking your pen, acting as if you are actively decoding ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Yes. You look so serious.
You put on a physical performance to signal, I am so deeply immersed in vital, complex work that it would be an absolute tragedy to interrupt me.
When in reality,
you are just staring at a blank Excel cell or doodling a cube, desperately praying the presenter moves on to the next slide.
I have definitely been guilty of that. We're utilizing a physical performance to mask our internal overthinking.
Yep.
Because the tragic irony here is that usually you do actually have a question.
That is a crucial insight from the source material. It's not that your mind is blank or you just don't care. You have a thought.
Right.
But instead of just asking it, you trigger a massive translation delay.
A translation delay. Yeah, you have a perfectly normal human question. Something like, hey, will this new software make the onboarding process slower?
A great question.
But you refuse to just ask that. You feel compelled to spend the next 5 minutes mentally translating that thought from normal human language into an unassailable dialect of professional corporate speak.
Exactly. You sit there revising it in real time, like, perhaps I should ask about the downstream friction points regarding user adoption.
Ugh, right.
And then you think, no, that's not smart enough. Could we unpack the bandwidth implications for cross-functional synergy?
It's so exhausting.
It is. You are terrified of sounding basic or uninformed, so you use complex jargon as armor.
But I have a major frustration with this habit, and I mean, it's something we all do.
Sure.
By the time we finally translated our thought into the perfect, bulletproof corporate vocabulary, the presenter has already clicked to the next topic.
Your moment is gone.
The opportunity to contribute is completely dead.
Hmm.
Are we genuinely prioritizing our vocabulary over our actual value to the organization?
Yes, we are. And that is exactly why this behavior is so damaging. This pursuit of polished language actively prevents real-time contribution.
Wow.
If your primary value to the team is your insight, but your insight is trapped behind a 5-minute translation delay, your effective value in that meeting is literally zero.
Jargon doesn't make you sound smarter, it just makes you slower.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we break this cycle? We've diagnosed the issue. We know that intellectual vanity, catastrophic risk assessments, and the need to translate everything into jargon are keeping us silent.
Right.
How do you, listening to this right now, actually change your behavior before your very next meeting?
It requires a fundamental paradigm shift. You have to abandon the goal of being the smartest person in the room.
Okay, abandon being the smart.
And replace it with a much simpler goal, letting people know you are physically in the room. You need to shift the goalpost from trying to be right to simply trying to be present.
Being visibly present is more valuable than being a silent genius.
It builds trust. You don't need a solved equation to participate. You just need an observation.
Let's talk about the practical ways to actually execute that shift from right to present. Because it's easy to say, just speak up. But when the anxiety hits, you need a mechanism to bypass it.
You do. And one of the most effective personal strategies I've seen used in the reading is the first 10 minutes rule.
The first 10 minutes rule.
Yeah, it directly attacks the neurological buildup of anxiety.
That makes a lot of sense. How does that actually play out in practice?
So the rule is that you force yourself to speak within the first 10 minutes of any meeting.
Just anything.
Anything. The content almost doesn't matter. You can ask a simple clarifying question. You can validate the agenda. You can just agree with the opening remarks.
You're not trying to blow anyone's mind.
Not at all. The goal isn't to impart profound wisdom. The goal is to trigger an early adrenaline dump.
Oh, I see. You are basically proving to your amygdala that the meeting room is not a lion's den.
Precisely. Because if you wait 45 minutes for the perfect moment to speak, the anticipation compounds. You build this massive psychological wall, and the stakes feel incredibly high.
Right, your heart is pounding by minute 40.
Exactly. But if you speak at minute 4, the wall never gets built. You've broken the ice, your voice is registered in the room, and the neurological threat response is neutralized.
It's like jumping into the cold pool immediately instead of standing on the edge agonizing over the temperature.
That is exactly what it is.
Jump in early, neutralize the threat.
I love that. I think another incredible strategy from the material is the simple act of validating and adding.
Yes, a great tool.
Like, instead of feeling the immense pressure to invent a brilliant strategy completely from scratch, you just take what is already on the table and build on it slightly.
It's the ultimate low-risk entry point. You just say, I completely agree with Sarah's point, and I wonder how that might affect our shipping timeline.
But wait, let me challenge that for a second.
If everyone just shifts their goalpost to being present, and we all start throwing out small additions like that, doesn't a 30-minute status meeting just turn into chaotic, unproductive noise?
I hear that.
Like, are we just encouraging people to talk for the sake of talking?
It's a very fair concern, but in practice, it actually does the opposite. When you validate someone else, you are building collective momentum.
Okay, how so?
Well, you elevated Sarah's status, you brought up a relevant variable, the shipping timeline, and you participated without needing a flawless revelation.
So it's not just noise.
No, it weaves the team closer together, and honestly, more importantly, it proves to your own brain that you can speak, nobody dies, and your reputation doesn't crumble into dust.
It's such a relief to realize the bar is actually that accessible.
It really is.
Which leads directly into the final brilliant visual from the source material. It perfectly encapsulates this entire philosophy of lowering your standards.
A half-baked cookie.
Yes, they argue that we need to stop holding our thoughts hostage and instead just throw our half-baked cookie into the oven with everyone else's.
The half-baked cookie. It's an uncomfortable visual because, well, our educational system conditioned us to only hand in a finished graded product.
Right. You don't turn in a rough draft for a final grade.
Exactly. But a collaborative workplace doesn't operate like a final exam.
Right, because the meeting itself is the oven.
Exactly. The metaphor works so well because it acknowledges that your idea is raw dough. It is unfinished.
And that's okay.
It is. But the collective heat of the team's input, like the pushback, the additions, the collaborative brainstorming, that is what actually bakes the idea.
Right.
When you keep your raw dough to yourself, waiting for it to magically bake in the cold isolation of your own mind, absolutely nothing happens. You have to be willing to toss it in the oven.
So make it okay to share average, obvious, or half-baked ideas. Stop waiting until you have a perfectly frosted pastry to offer the room. Brad from sales is out there throwing raw flour and water at the wall, and the team is working together to bake it into something useful.
And if we tie this all back to the beginning, that intellectual vanity we discussed, that is simply you refusing to share a cookie unless you can guarantee it will be perceived as a gourmet masterpiece. The modern workplace rarely needs a lone, brooding master chef. It needs people who are willing to get messy in the kitchen together.
This has been a phenomenal reality check.
It really has.
If we're pulling all of this together for the listener, the standard of communication at work is, quite frankly, incredibly low.
Yeah.
And you should view that as liberating news.
Absolutely liberating.
It means you officially have permission to be publicly average.
Stop waiting for the flawless revelation. Bypass the catastrophic risk assessments where you play 4D chess against yourself.
And stop utilizing the Rosetta Stone maneuver to avoid eye contact.
Stop trying to carve your thoughts into marble.
Flex the muscle and just serve up your half-baked ideas. So, to you listening right now, the next time you feel that familiar throat-tightening anxiety on a Zoom call and you catch yourself mentally translating a simple question into heavy corporate jargon, you need to remember the core truth of today's deep dive.
Serve it up.
Exactly. A slightly undercooked idea gets eaten way faster than one that is never served.
And I'll leave you with this final thought to mull over before you log into your next meeting. If a perfectly polished, genius-level idea kept entirely to yourself has zero impact on the world, what if the most valuable asset you bring to your team isn't actually your intellect, but simply your willingness to be loudly, visibly imperfect?